What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pavement Group podcast. This is episode 12. We're staying with our green theme. We got an awesome guest today. Rick Bell, who's the VP of Strategic Partnerships for Merchants Fleet, is going to talk a little bit about the electric vehicles, the electric trucks that they're rolling out and partnering on. I'm pretty excited to hear about this. As always, Brian Hess is here with me. How are you, Brian?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Happy to be here.
Good, man. Well, this is going to be a great conversation. Looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us. Episode 12 of the Pavement Group podcast. Here we go. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Rick, how are you? Thanks for joining us, man.
I feel like I'm on Sunday Night Football. I love that intro. That was amazing.
Oh, we made that just for you, Rick.
I actually was running to get a beer, but then I said, wait, it's not Sunday night.
No, you can. Well, Joe Buck just said he drinks tequila on the broadcast, so I think you can go get a beer. That's fine. That's fine. Rick is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Merchants Fleet, specifically the Mobility Division. We're going to get into what you do, how you started doing that, and talk a lot about these electric vehicles that you guys are starting to help to pilot. Pretty excited about that. Brian, welcome back, my man. How you doing?
Thanks, brother. Doing great, man. Doing great. Happy to dig into this with Rick, man. This should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Todd and Brian. I really appreciate it. I think it's going to be a fun discussion, and I think it's really relevant where we're going in the world today. So.
Very much so. You know, we had our last week's podcast, we had Steve Flaherty on, and he was talking about using recycled plastic and asphalt. I feel like we're just leading the green movement here. And to our viewers, you're welcome. Okay. Here we go. So, Rick, tell me a little bit about yourself. So you're working for Merchants Fleet. I know a little bit of the story because I've known Rick for a number of years. We've been involved in some businesses together. Super smart guy. Went to this company that was a smaller sort of regional company, right? You guys have really grown a lot in part to some of this innovation. Just tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I do have a paving background, Todd. You know that. So we had that New England experience. So I love this group, and I'm excited about paving in general. So that's always under the fingernails. You know what I'm saying? So, but then back in 2015, I had an opportunity to come down here to the southeast. I'm stationed outside of a little Army background there. I'm out here outside of Savannah. And worked for a company, Merchants, at the time was Merchants Short-Term Solutions, where we would provide vehicles for contractors and different projects throughout the country on a temporary basis, kind of extended rental type of thing. We did summer camps in colleges. And in 2016, we got a new CEO that really brought some energy and fire into the company, kind of a financial tech viewpoint, and started reimagining what Merchants could be. And so we were the 9th or 10th largest leasing company in the United States, and then over the last few years through that reimagining, we're up to like number 5. And we right now are constantly looking to innovate and push the envelope on what tomorrow looks like. And we have innovation groups. At some point come to the headquarters after COVID. It's heavy tech. We have robots driving around, and it's an environment that just really fosters innovation and creativity. One of the lines I like is, what mobility where I work, and that's kind of the guerrilla warfare of leasing, rental, and building programs is, we take technology need and put it with capacity to create opportunity. So as we've transitioned, really looking in the future, Merchants has really kind of gone on all out. We've pushed ourselves into the last mile space, and we have some very large e-commerce partners, some of the largest in the world. We've helped them innovate programs that have really enabled them to really achieve some amazing profitability in these last few years. Mm-hmm. And we keep on doing it. We launched these national leasing and rental programs, different platforms from, obviously the white cargo vans to state bag trucks to box trucks to 26 footers, you name it. And now we have kind of gone all in EV. GM and BrightDrop has announced their BrightDrop EV600, and there's more to come with that. The platform is stellar. It's based on the Ultium battery, which is.
Will you tell me what's the EV600?
So the EV600 is really the first four-way offering that GM's using. It's a all-electric vehicle. It's on the Ultram battery, which is the base of the vehicle. It's the same for every platform. It has a capacity of 600 cubic foot. And the most amazing thing about it is the range for the vehicle, fully loaded, is 275 miles. And when you're talking about EVs, some of the other OEMs and other manufacturers have struggled to get past 100, 150 miles in range.
Okay.
When you get into that 275-mile range, you can go out all day. You can make 200 stops, deliver packages, or you could load that vehicle up with supplies, with paint machines and paint guns and stencils, and what have you, and do multiple jobs. And as that platform evolves, that's going to be the basis for the the heavy lift vehicles and different things like that. But
so is that a chassis, Rick? Essentially, that's something that you can kind of.
So right now, Todd, it's a completed vehicle. It's a completed vehicle. It's got shelving. It's prepped for the final delivery, last delivery. It's prepped for, let's say, it's equivalent to something like a UPS Brown P700 that you see in the neighborhood. It's equivalent to that, but the chassis itself, as the program evolves, will be almost interchangeable with different platforms. You get a truck nowadays. You buy the chassis and you say, hey, I want to add a stake bed. I want to add this. I want to add that. I want the upfits. That's going to be the case.
Okay. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. And we went all in. We said, how much production is available? And they said, we've got about 14,000 vehicles available that we're going to produce between now and 2023. And we said, we want them all. And they said, well, no, FedEx is ahead of you. They wanted 500. So we said, well, we'll take the rest. Okay. So we have 13,500. And then after that, you can have one, or you can come call us.
All right.
What's interesting, man, I'm thinking as you talk about that 275-mile range, we've been kind of part of this EV evolution, like, seeing, being part of pouring the concrete for these EV stations, doing the excavation up front for the running of the wiring and all that stuff. And so as you see these things rolling out, when you're talking about that 275-mile range, I'm thinking, man, in some cases, you're going to have a truck that's full that needs emptied. And that takes a period of time, right? So what's going to happen is these distribution centers are all going to have charging stations right at the door. So you could drive that thing 275 miles, plug it in as it's being unloaded, and drive it 275 miles back. And that's a pretty far distance, man.
Hey, Brian, how about we don't plug it in? How about the loading docks, right? As you're pulling in, and talk about it at home, you're pulling in, and just like my cell phone on a charger, my vehicle is going to pull a charge from a pad at the loading dock, and imagine that municipalities are going to be doing the same thing at stoplights in heavy traffic areas. Those first 4 or 5 cars up to a red light are all going to automatically charge your vehicle. You'll have something like a tail hook that comes down that can actually make a contact if it needs to be.
Man, if you thought those Boston drivers were aggressive before, wait until the first 4 spots give you a free charge.
This guy's on my charger. Get out of there. You're on my charger.
Get on the charger. Where's the charger? But if you think about it, what's amazing is that once, there's it's from it's the Catalyst from Jonathan Berger. And he talks about tipping points. And we're at that tipping point where we've been building, and it's almost like a volcano. The pressure's building. And now with the federal government saying, hey, all 600,000 vehicles are going to be EV. We have environmental considerations. We have municipalities, cities, and really projects. I did some I'm talking a lot here, so just raise your hand if you want to stop. So I did an RFP the other day, and one of the questions was, what percentage of your fleet is EV? And I thought about it, and I said, well, it's going to be a huge percentage in a couple of years, because that 13,000, by the way, we have about 40,000 in total between pickup trucks. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what percentage of your fleet is EV? Can you imagine, and look at your business, right? You're going to bid on a contract, and they go, oh, well, you have to be 10% EV. And you go, uh-oh. So the world is moving in a direction that's going to really mandate that. And forget about the politics. It is what it is. We are where we are. And the tipping point has, in my opinion, occurred. There's nothing that's going to stop us at this point in terms of the adoption of EV. And, there's really different phases of adoption. You could actually be an advanced, you charge into it, you could go along with the flow, or you could actually fight the current. Those who fight the current probably are going to have real challenges in their future business endeavors, because this isn't something that's going away.
Yeah, we talked about that last week actually with Steve Flaherty, and to Todd's point earlier, he was talking about plastic in asphalt, right? So basically, they're taking waste plastics, converting that into an aggregate replacement, and then paving with it, right? And it's an unbelievably durable material. It performs in a lot of cases better than asphalt, and it has these solutions. And we talked about that challenge, especially in our industry, man. You know how the construction industry is. People fight that adoption. And I made the comment like, man, you want to be the first to adopt these things. You don't want to be on the backside, man, because it's not stopping. Like, it's same thing with that conversation. It's past the tipping point. Yeah. Plastic and asphalt is coming. So are you going to be one of the contractors that doesn't want to do it, or one of the people that fights that, well, I'm not going to go to these EV vehicles early. I'm not going to be forced into that. Well, then when the contracts do require it, you're going to be playing catch up, and it's going to be, more difficult for you to adjust in that moment.
Well, imagine you're bidding on a contract and you're not EV, right? And it's part of the contract, and the buddy that you're or the other company bidding, they're well advanced. Now they're going to sell you carbon credits just so you can bid on that. So now your cost just went up. The guy you've been against just made money off you just to bid on the contract. You're going to probably lose it anyhow, right? Because you don't actually have an EVs, but you just cost you X amount of dollars in carbon credits for something that's really no real asset. I mean, it's a scary world. If you're not being prepared for it, you're going to get left behind. And that's not a scare tactic. It's just, we all have responsibilities. We have employees, we have futures, we have mortgages and vacations and dreams. And we have a real responsibility to look out for our companies and our shareholders and say, are we prepared for the future? Because the future is kind of here right now.
Sure. Well, Steve had mentioned too, Steve Flaherty, we were talking from Nicotech, about how there was sort of a false start, maybe 15 years ago with the green movement, and people just weren't quite ready. Some folks jumped in, some didn't. And I remember that being in construction at the time with the vehicles, but there really wasn't a platform available for contractors, especially for paving contractors, because we were always trying to be, sort of forward thinking and looked at that. So I guess what you're saying now is a contractor really can't avoid doing this, right? If you want to stay competitive, if you want to be relevant in the next 2, 3, 5 years, you've got to be part of this.
Yeah, I would say, and again, I want to be very careful not to try to scare anybody into action, because that's not the goal here. This is just
we're giving information here, not scaring anyone.
Information. If you've seen Todd here, he's probably just this look alone scaring people.
Damn you!
Love you, Todd. So I think it's if you want to be in business in a productive way in the next 10 years or less, you'd really need to get on board. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, I'm a contractor. I have 14 triaxles and 22 pickup trucks, and I all need to EV. It probably looks something more like, hey, in 2024, you're going to have to be 5%, and 28, you have to be 10%. And by 2030, you have to be like, 50% or 30% conversion to stay relevant and stay in the marketplace. Okay. And one of the things that we can do for you, for any contractor, which we're doing right now, even for our larger clients, is we're building that kind of EV ramp plan based on production, based on your particular need for vehicles. And it's not painful. It's actually kind of a reassuring process that says, hey, listen, I have, consultants. This is our consulting group that can work with the different contractors and customers and really prepare a plan for them in the future. Because here's the scare tactic, by the way. I'll be a little scary here. So over the next 5 years, the demand for EVs in the industrial space, we're talking pickup trucks, heavy vehicles, cargo vans, is anticipated to be about 7.7 million vehicles. Production, production combined, is just under 5 million. And so you're going to have a negative delta of 2 million vehicles. And that delta means there's going to be a lot of people paying for carbon credits, a lot of people not participating in the marketplace. So what do? Well, you get ahead of it now. You get information, you get some understanding, and then you start going from there. I'll let you know, part of we're told them right around 40,000 EVs are on order right now for Merchants Fleet. About half of those are pickup trucks at different types of chassis and things like that can be modified for seal coat trucks and you name it, right? Are we at the point that we're going to see EV triaxles? Not today. But guess what? It's not about torque. There's plenty of torque with EVs, but it's probably coming tomorrow. And by the time you're in an EV ramp plan, then you can plug those other platforms in when the time comes. So again, it's part of kind of the due diligence on business planning that says I need to know a little bit more about this.
Yeah. I think it's a great point, man. And hopefully the people that listen to this, it just kind of starts the conversation for them, right? Because it's not something that is top of mind in a lot of places, right? Most families do not have an EV vehicle at all yet, right? I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess it's a low percentage of families that own EV. Now, the people that I know that do own EV end up buying a second one. Right. They start to live that lifestyle. They go to the places, the restaurants, the hotels that have the charging stations, right? And they avoid the places that don't. It becomes part of their routine. And so I think this conversation is really important for people to listen to and just to start that conversation within their companies, right? Because like you said, supply and demand tells you that you should probably be starting this conversation, right? And those companies that do are going to be on the front end of the innovation, and those companies that don't are going to be the ones complaining in 5 years that they can't get their hands on things and how difficult it is to implement this stuff. Right. And you can by starting the conversation now.
Do you want to be Blockbuster? You want to be Netflix? You want to be Hulu? You want let's just transition a little bit to some of the goodies. That's kind of all the I talked about some negatives, but here's some kind of really cool things. Think about an EV vehicle, right? So how many oil changes? None. How many brake jobs? None. How many transmissions go bad? There's no transmission. You have a vehicle platform where every wheel, and they're all-wheel drive, so you're already in certain weather, you're already set up for success. You have more space. You open the hood, what's there? Nothing's there. It's called a front trunk, yeah. Right? And so you're looking at this vehicle that some of the traditional maintenance costs that we don't exist. There's some grease fittings here and there, but those huge, and we all know the depreciation curve in maintenance as our fleets age and how much more expensive they get as they get older. That's all gone. Now, there's always going to be some things, some learning in the maintenance space, but when companies like GM with their thousands and thousands of dealerships all over the country, every town has a Chevy or a GM, is in this game all in like they are. I mean, they're going to have 30 EV platforms in the next 5 years. Then you can really rest assured that you have people to look at these vehicles and make sure they're squared away. We also look at the lifespan of these vehicles. On an EV vehicle isn't that 5 years. It's probably more like 8-9 years or longer. Easily upgradable wheel motors that are more efficient and better. Right now, too, the braking of the vehicle generates more electricity, and so you get more power. And they grow, and the batteries themselves are replaceable and upgradable. Ultra battery is pretty amazing. The system that's the basis of the bright drop for GM, but they'll upgrade that'll be better. I hear that some of the pickup trucks coming out unofficially have ranges over 300 miles.
Wow.
It's just mind-boggling. Tax credits, from local city and state credits make home EV level 2, level 3 chargers. Level 3 charger is something that charges a vehicle fully in about 20 to 40 minutes. So that's, the magic number is 10 minutes. The 10-minute full charge is coming. It's going to come in the next 36 months. You're going to have a 10-minute full charge for your vehicle. Now you're on par with filling up gasoline. And I'll tell you one other thing. This is where the contractors come in, right? Can you imagine if you're going? I'm going on here, but I'm excited about it because it's the future.
Sure.
Can you imagine a future where you have charging corridors? Some of these highways where you have like easy passes, and this you actually pull in, you don't stop, you just go. It's a 10-mile corridor. But like Brian was saying, with the autonomous vehicle with the embedded road information, but now you have embedded chargers. And you're pulling charge from that road surface for 10 miles. Now your range is almost unlimited. So as the world develops, need will facilitate response. So, I mean, it's so exciting.
Do you see a lot of this? I know you guys are pretty involved in moving all this forward. Do you see a lot of this in the infrastructure plans for the next couple of decades that are already rolling out? Because once you put those in, you're locked in, right? You're going to do a charging lane off a freeway. That's not something that you do to hope it works, right? You're pretty committed.
I think actually the world was I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think the world was a little caught off guard. I think 6 months ago, we weren't at the tipping point. The tipping point is now.
Okay.
And so I think, Todd, private investment companies, innovators in industry will pilot those charging lanes. They'll pilot, the upfits, not just at the, at the, the delivery stations like Amazon's doing and other companies, but there will be a need and really the supply and demand need of our economy will drive that.
Yeah.
There's money to be made. People are going to do it.
Sure.
And when you're looking at, I'll give you an example. I had a conversation about our merchants push into Canada this year. And so we're moving into Canada in some forms and fashion. And one of the challenges we had was the red tape involved with transferring U.S. vehicles up to Canada and Turns out there's no red tape for EVs. It's like, just drive it over. It's done.
Because most of that's like emission standards, right?
Well, exactly. And so suddenly all these barriers some of them don't even exist. The traditional red tape, bureaucratic barriers that we're so used to don't exist on EVs in some case, or they're much less. Or it's the opposite. There's such motivation to do that it's the Wild West of opportunity. And that's how I think people have to look at it, the Wild West of opportunity. And we're in a generation right now where the world is changing. We're at the tipping point, again, using Jonathan's terminology here, but we're at that tipping point, and it is the Wild West of opportunity. I encourage anybody not to miss it, whether it's your business and you've got a small pavement company. If you're innovating and you have those vehicles, you're going to get opportunity that others don't get. I mean, it's exciting.
Very cool. So from a standpoint of, you talked about you've got plans to ramp fleets. So if I'm looking at it as a paving contractor, I can't go and replace all my vehicles tomorrow. That's probably not possible for most people. How do you step that up? Is it starting with maybe estimators or sales guys' cars and then getting a couple trucks? Like, how do you envision that for a mid-range company? Yeah,
we look at the fleet holistically, and you say, okay, well, what is your capital? What's your capital? Where are you at? What's your financial plans? And yeah, you can pick off the executive vehicles. You can pick off the foreman trucks. Those. So you're going to look at it and say, hey, how many vehicles do you have? I have 100 vehicles. Well, you need 10% EV. Well, we won't do the pavers won't be EV just yet, right?
Sure.
But we'll do those salesman vehicles. We'll do the supervisor vehicles. Those are pickup trucks, SUVs, things like that. And then we can do some of the crew vehicles, the box trucks, the different platforms. And so you look at it, we have advisors. We have built a robust team for EV, and we just help you along the way. It's like a financial advisor, but for EVs. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you know, if you wait, and here's a scare tactic, I don't mean to do it, but I told you already there's a 2 million vehicle deficit by 2025. If you wait and you ask a company, hey, I need to kind of get involved in EVs, and you wait to say 2023, not a problem. The first one's going to land in 2027 for you. What? What do you mean? What? So it doesn't cost a whole lot for anybody to sit down and start to put a plan together, because really a mid-sized company, Todd, like you said, it might be 2 vehicles next year. 2. Mm-hmm. By the way, we also with services too. We're going to help you with that charger. Do you need level 2? Do you need level 3? Do you need a remote charger? We're working with a company in Southern California that has remote charging that basically is a big battery pack. And at nighttime, you do pull from traditional electrical service, but at a much lower rate. Daytime, it cuts off and you just run off the batteries all day. And so it actually, it's great. And that's a level 2 charger. So you can actually pull some pretty good juice from that. But we'll help you with those things. And then maybe 2023, it's 10 vehicles, and 24, it's 6 more. It's not a rapid change, but it is a rapid change, from where we were. And by the way, let me be perfectly clear. We have 150,000 gas and diesel vehicles also. So we have a national truck rental program. We're still doing all those things.
Yeah, sure.
So please don't think that we can't help you out in that regard. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome, man. This was enlightening. I learned a lot here, Rick. I appreciate your time as always.
But the energy is just, how often are you at the looking glass of tomorrow? How often? And here we are, and we all know it. And that's the cool thing. We all know it. It's one
I know.
Be there, not know back and say, what was I thinking? Wild West of opportunity now. Kind of cool.
Yeah. No, I get it. I sold my Bitcoin at $27. I get it. I get it. Brian, you got anything else you want to ask Rick before we let him get back to work here?
So I'm just going to say this, Todd. While we were sitting here, I have an idea for the next episode that'll tie in another green solution. It'll be a great tie into this one, but hopefully we can line that up since I just said it live here on the podcast.
Okay.
But, no, Rick, I mean, great information, man. You made me expand my thinking a lot. Talking about the lanes and the pads at traffic lights and things like that. And the idea, and it's funny, man, you can watch this stuff happening in other verticals and other industries, like the evolution of, the way that phones charge is a great transition point of how it's going to go for vehicles, right? And so, if we just pay attention and we figure out how to transition those things from one place to another, you figure out exactly how this stuff is going to work. So I think it was awesome, man. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge and information. And I'll just say it here, man. You and I need to have a conversation. The three of us need to have a conversation offline here about getting this stuff moving in our company as well, so that we can stay on the forefront as we always try to be. So thank you for your time, man. And thank you for all the knowledge. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, Rick. Another good one. Thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll put Rick's contact information in the comments in case any contractors want to reach out to him and talk to him about getting that plan rolling. So this has been episode 12 of the Pavement Group podcast. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all next time.